Have you ever paid attention to the faces that you make when you're curling your hair?
I love that you're presupposing that I do my hair. The only face that I know that I make is when I put on mascara, I open my mouth like,
Yeah, yeah, I think we all have to. I don't know why. Like that makes our eyes go bigger. Oh, you are doing it with your mouth closed. Oh, no, I think opening your jaw though gives you more stability, perhaps, to make the mascara go on smoother.
let me see your hair making faces.
No, I can't do those because they're very bad. And it's so funny because I never noticed or paid attention. And yet I was curling my hair the other day, and one of the boys walks in to the bedroom and wanted to have a conversation whilst I was doing my hair. And
Uh-huh.
so he's sort of like sitting on my bed and we're having this conversation and I'm curling my hair and then he's like, "Why does your face do that?" I'm like, excuse me? Do what?" He's like, "Are you mad? Are you constipated? What is wrong? What is wrong? Are you in pain? Does it hurt to curl your hair?" So apparently the faces that I make are not nice ones.
I don't have a curling iron handy, but I have this meat stick. So let's see what I would do.
Oh, so you're not making a face, you're
No,
thinking
I
about
don't think
it.
I make a face.
Listen, you're thinking about it right now. Trust me, I feel like, okay, if you're over here and you're curling something here, I think your face goes like, mine goes
Oh
like
yeah.
this or
Oh
something.
yeah, I could see it. I could see doing that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I
Mhm.
probably make a face.
Okay. If you think about it next time, just freeze and
Yeah.
take a picture so that you can send it to me because I want to see. I'll do the same.
My hair smells like meat now. What is your payday routine? Money hits your account. What's the first thing you do?
I have a party to celebrate. I get out the air horns and balloons and the confetti bombs.
Oh yeah, the confetti bombs. Yeah, the gotta have the confetti.
Here, see, just like that. Confetti, yahoo!
I think that's what most people do. The money hits the account and then they start making decisions
Yep.
as to what they're going to do or how they're going to spend. You're not proactive about it. You're reacting to the money being in your account. But I believe that there are four things that you absolutely must do as soon as you get paid.
Okay. Are there any that we can automate? Because
Yep.
listen, I am very busy, so I need to set things up for success here.
Especially if you're salaried and you have a consistent payday and the money hits your account at a certain time, as much of the things that you can automate, I think that needs to happen. Absolutely. But
Okay.
the very first thing is you're going to take the amount that you're putting towards retirement and you're going to invest it. Now, this can be automated. So, off the top, no matter what, you are going to make sure there's a percentage that's going towards your future wealth building.
Hmm.
If it is automated, this part can just be a simple double check. Your paycheck hits the account, you go in, you make sure that that money came out and went towards whatever investment that you're purchasing. That's really wise. This is a non-negotiable if you're consumer debt free.
Mhm.
Absolutely non-negotiable. If you have consumer debt or you're in phase 2 of the Get the Hell Out of Debt program, but you've been investing that whole time, then you're going to keep investing. If you haven't started, I'm not saying you need to start, but you need to be aware that you're going to start soon. And that's going to create the urgency you need to get the hell out of debt as fast as possible because you're missing out on compounding, which is going to rapidly accelerate your wealth. And the sooner you start doing this, the better.
Mhm. That money goes away and we don't even think about it. And then whatever's left is what we have left. If it's automated, it just goes and we don't even have to think about it. It's like it didn't ever exist in the first place. And then it's just doing the money bunny thing in the background.
And my second point is that if you're self-employed, you're going to then take a portion of whatever you were paid and put it aside for taxes. So every time you receive a receivable, you're taking a percentage of that and you're putting it away in a separate account. Now, in your business account, you can have probably talk to your bank and have a tax holding account. And in that case, it's very wise to move it to a separate account so that it's out of the way, sight unseen, and it's sitting there and potentially accumulating a little bit of interest if you can have it in a savings account. But its job is not to make money. Its job is to be there so you don't get in trouble with the IRS or the CRA or the HMRC or the ATO, depending on where you live. All of those are government organizations that manage the revenue for the government, and they want your income tax as soon as possible. When we have back taxes, it's one of the most stressful debts that we have. And so it's really important that we don't put ourselves in a position where we're constantly trying to make up for past tax mistakes. We want to start putting money away today. So even if you have currently back taxes that you're working at paying, you're going to start to put aside a percentage now so that in the future, you don't run into this again.
Mm-hmm.
So right off the top, that paycheck hits your account, you're going to take a small percentage and put it aside for taxes, whatever that is for you based on what your tax bracket approximately is.
It's not a fun thing to do. I don't love this one because I just don't like giving the government my money. So this one makes me angry that I have to do this because that money's not going to work for me. That's money that I have to pay somebody else. And it makes me angry. But yet I know that I'm going to be taxed every single year. So instead of it being a surprise at the end of the year, and it's like, here you go, here's your bill. Now what? It is a very good idea to put that money aside.
And if you were salaried, you'd be paying it anyway. You just don't
Right.
notice.
Yeah, exactly.
What's cool is if you're putting that money aside and then your tax bill comes in and you've got a great accountant and you've done some very tax savvy planning and you don't need all that money, now you take the leftover, that big chunk, and
Yeah.
you invest it.
Okay. Okay.
And then you
Not
continue.
so not buy shoes.
Not buy shoes. You can do that with your regular shoe line item if you've got that in your budget.
Fine.
The third thing you're going to do on payday is, do you want more? I know you do. Why wouldn't you want more?
More
Of
what? What do I
more,
want more of?
more of this. Come hang out in the online course, Forget the Hell Out of Debt. The link is in the description. You just got to click it, sign up, and we'll see you in there. Is after you've done your budget and spending plan, which of course you did before payday happened, you will have figured out how much you don't need for the expenses. So your income minus your expenses is what you calculate on your spending plan, and there'll be an amount left over if you're in the black, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever amount that is, you've determined ahead of time. The minute payday hits and that money hits your account, you're now going to also take that amount off the top and transfer it into the investment account over and above what was coming out automatically. We're going to remove that from the table. People often think, well, what if I need it? What if that's what your quick and dirty fund is for. But if we're not taking this out and investing it, or if you're in the phase 2 of get the hell out of debt, if you're not taking that out and using it to pay down a liability, then that money's going to magically disappear by the end of the month. If you just leave it in the account in case you need it, guess what? Amazon Prime Day is going to come. There's going to be a sale at Walmart. There's going to be all kinds of things that require you to use that money that you won't have been intentional with. So when you take it off the top, now you have to rely on your own resourcefulness. So you can get extremely resourceful with groceries or other things that builds those money muscles through the month. And you're ensuring that you're building your wealth along the way.
Why is it that we do that? What kind of things in our brain are like, hey, I know that there's a little extra money in here, so let's go crazy, spend some extra at Target.
Well, that's why we have you do zero-based budgeting, because then when every dollar is accounted for, when you see an extra $400 in the account, you're like, oh, that's unusual. That shouldn't be there because technically there should be zero.
Right.
Or if you're like most people and you keep a certain amount in your checking account every month just to make sure you don't ever go NSF. So some people keep $1,000 minimum in their checking account or $5,000 in their checking account. That's their zero. They would never go below that, right? But if you see $5,400, you're like, this $400 needs to be allocated towards something. So there never should be extra money in there because you should have, technically, look at me shitting all over you today, you should have accounted for all of that when you were doing your spending plan ahead of time. Number 4, any variable expenses. So of course, every month you've got things you got to pay. Some of them are fixed, meaning they're the same amount every month that come out at the same time every month. And some of those are variable expenses, like groceries or fuel, for example, things that fluctuate. So those variable expenses need to be handled. I like to throw my variable expenses into a checking account that's separate. So I take the amount of all of my variable expenses that I've budgeted for each month. So let's say in my budget, I've budgeted $1,000 for groceries and gas and just general spending. I'm going to take $1,000 on the day that money hits my account, and I'm going to move it into my separate checking account with a debit card attached. And that's the account I'm going to do my grocery shopping and my gas and all of that. I'm going to do it all out of that account. And my job is, if I've allocated all of that to be about $1,000 a month, I'm going to do my best not to spend that full 1,000. Ideally, I'm going to have money left over, which I'm then going to now add to that investment so that I can hit that wealth building 3 different ways.
That is not what I do. I don't move it into another checking account. I've never thought to do that.
You probably didn't have $2.1 million in debt in your 20s. Okay. That might be why. But when I did, and I was really, really hurting financially, I was hitting NSFs everywhere.
Mm.
And back then, NSFs, I think, were $25 or $30. I think now they're $40 to $50 for an NSF. But it adds up because you get an NSF from the bank, you get an NSF from the company. And so now you're probably $90 to $100 from a whoopsie that might have only been a $5 whoopsie, now has cost you way more, penalties and fees and all of that. So the reason we would move that money over into a separate account is because we're avoiding NSF. So now when all of those automatic payments come out, there is enough money in that account and we didn't accidentally overspend the mortgage money or the rent money or something like that. That money is safe. It's all automated. It's going to come out of that account, no problem. And I'm only managing the ones I have to make decisions for at a checkout. So that if I have to adjust my decision, I can do that without it affecting my home or my transportation or any of my other really important spends.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good advice. What about if people get paid irregularly? Or what if it's like bi-weekly instead of once a month? The rules are still the same?
Same. Yep. You just have to do it more frequently. So if you're paid twice a month, you're going to manage this. Now, some people have a lot of expenses that come out at a certain time
Yeah.
of the month.
Yeah.
So they might have all of their expenses front end loaded at the beginning of the month. And so in that case, we don't want the first 15 days of the month to feel so heavy and like, you're waiting and waiting and waiting for that paycheck, because what that does is it creates that sort of binge spending where you starve for so long and then you overeat because you're so hungry. Instead of binge spending, what we do is we start to pad up that account, and then we make sure that we're working a month ahead all of the time, so that we're not waiting for that paycheck to hit before we can survive. So we almost kind of do an extra little quick and dirty to pad that up so that we've got an extra 15 days in there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can start to spend a little more normally.
And all of these things, we just need to get in touch with the bank, right? And set things up to come out
Yeah.
automatically.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit of work on the front end, but it saves you so much time and hassle on the back end, saves you so much money in the long run. And the nice thing is you feel like you're in control and you're making the decisions ahead of time, so that when payday hits, you're not guessing or making decisions based on Facebook ads. You are in control of your money, and then you're dictating where it's going to go, and everything's working in the way it's supposed to. And it really does give you a sense of freedom.
So for our 10 minutes a day, we could literally just be checking to be sure everything is gone where it needs to go on those particular days. How often do the banks make mistakes?
On a grand scale, often,
Mm.
but for an individual, I don't know, once every 5 years, the bank might, of course, it depends on how much financial stress you're in. If you're running really close to that zero line, I've had it happen before. I remember putting money in the account, taking it out for something, knowing that the money was going to go in at midnight.
Mhm.
And then the other expense was going to come out sometime later that day. But then the way the bank reconciles is they were like, oh, you didn't have the money in the account. I'm like, it was there, but the way their system worked made it NSF. And I was just running too close to the line. It just was so expensive to be broke. And I think that's something important to remember if you are struggling. It is so expensive to be broke because the fees associated with being broke are so almost insurmountable in the beginning that you have to work extra hard to get yourself in a position of abundance. Now, not for long, you don't have to work hard for long, but for a couple of months, you really have to be focused on acquiring enough to give yourself a buffer so that you're not running up against that line all the time and then creating unnecessary stress for yourself with those NSFs.
I was just thinking about if I make faces whilst I do my banking. Like, do you
Oh,
think that when I sit in front of my computer, I'm also making faces? Now I'm self-conscious because if I'm doing it while I'm looking at myself in a mirror and don't even know, how many faces am I making when I'm sitting in front of the computer?
we have hundreds of hours of your RBF on file here. So I don't think you want to ask that question.